Okay, good. We're live.
Okay.
Dustin Turner's coming in. Go ahead.
No, we'll give him a second to hop on.
Good. We're live.
We were just
Yes,
waiting
we
for
are.
him.
Yeah, we'll give him a little bit.
Dustin Turner's coming in. Go ahead.
No.
Oh, Beth, I'm going to mute Beth.
Second.
There.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order at 6:11 p.m. due to technical difficulties with our live feed. First order of business, approval of the agenda. We'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Washington County will make a motion to accept the agenda.
Thank you, Jeff. And a second.
Chittenden County. Second.
I heard Chittenden County on that, Pat.
Yep.
Thank you. Any changes or additions to the agenda? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Thank you. Treasurer's report, Patty.
Okay, membership. So there was actually a little bit of income, around 11K in the month of April. And again, the data is through April. I should start with that, which is 7 months of our budget. And we are at 83% of our budget expectations. In April, that's with the $10. You take the $10 out, brings us to 77%. And, just to do a year-over-year comparison. When we look at the income, again, through April, we had 32K in income activity with the, and that includes the $10, about 12K in membership and about 13K in contracted services. That's the SSTP management stuff. We're about 80% there. But if you take the $10 out, it's about 75% year-over-year comparison, which is about 10% less than where we were last season. And then expenses, we had 144K in expenses, of which 76K was in trails, which was, and the breakdown of that was 21K in signage, 29K in grooming, and 19K in commercial TMA reimbursements to counties. There was the salaries and benefits, which is a monthly number. We are at 58% of our fiscal year, and we're about 54% of our expense budget. There are just a few items there I listed just to show that a couple things have gone over, but there's a lot of stuff that, which Cindy, I'm sure will cover in her projection, a lot of things that are way under. So she'll go through those numbers with you in more detail. Trails encumbered for the season. So far, we've spent 328K. It was about 10K this particular month. And for flood relief work, our season so far is 393K. Out of that 750, and there's a balance, and this is paid, so I don't know what's been allocated or promised. This is just what's been paid through April. Balance is 356K. Trail projects regular season, we had about 10K again this month. Total 328 for the regular flood relief, about 6,700, 393 in the season. So total projects paid between the regular and the flood for this year so far is around 722K. Just to give everybody an idea where the money goes.
Thank you, Patty. I will
There's also the
entertain a
grooming
motion.
numbers in there and the GPS. If I put that in the email, so if you wanted to look at that in a little bit more detail. And I'm sorry, Jeff. That's it for me.
No, I didn't realize you weren't done. Sorry. Didn't mean to step on you.
That's all right.
I will entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
Windsor County make a motion to approve the treasurer's report as presented.
Thank you, Doug. And a second, please.
Washington.
I didn't catch that.
It was Washington. It was Jeff Alvin.
Washington. Okay, thank you, Jeff.
Jeff, you've got to do the secretary's report approval too first.
I skip over that already. I did.
You did.
Thank you.
You're
Sorry, Ruth. Any further discussion on the treasurer's report? And then we'll back up to secretary's report. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
And we will back up to the secretary's report. Copy was in your packet. I will entertain a motion to approve the secretary's report.
Windsor County make a motion to approve the secretary's report.
Thank you, Doug.
Lamoille will
second.
second.
Thank you, Dustin. Any discussion, changes, errors on the secretary's report? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, say nay, please. Thank you. All right, you get back on track here. Nothing tabled, old business. Waterbury
I have an
Bridge.
update.
Waterbury
Sorry.
Bridge update. Yep, thank you.
Sure. The club has done a great job with the tree service folks and getting everything lined up. And so basically the plan is that they've gotten an arborist. They have sent us a copy of a bid. So they're think it's going to cost between $1,500 and $3,000 to remove the tree. We've also requested from them a copy of a W-9 and insurance, and they have gotten that to us. And they are also in touch with Stowe Mountain Rescue just to have folks on hand. And so once that date is set for the tree removal, we've been asked to be notified. So I know we've got a couple of board members. It's going to be on a Saturday, I think. A couple of volunteers and board members that would like to be on site. We're just requesting that no volunteers be on the bridge or be assisting in the tree removal, as it is a company that is insured to do the work. So Nathan is here. He's the president of the Green Mountain Roamers, in case you guys have any questions. But I think I just wanted to let you know that I've looked over everything and it looks good. So if somebody wanted to make a motion to allow this to move forward, the bid for the, up to $3,000 for the tree removal on the Waterbury Suspension Bridge, that I have reviewed everything on.
Matt has a
Yes,
Well,
it's been submitted, a project.
It's been submitted, yes.
Yep.
Trail
Yep.
work application. Yep.
Yep.
Sorry.
You knew what you wanted, Jeff.
Yeah, I know. I wish I did.
Does this need a vote from the board, or is this just something under Matt's purview?
Well, it needs a vote from the board because Jeff Halpin brought it to the board's attention that this work needed to be done. And so the board said that moving forward, if they were going to spend money, they wanted, so it took it out of the realm of general project. It came under the purview of the board as of a few months ago. So that's why. So normally, no, the board would not need to approve trail projects.
Windsor County make a motion to approve this expenditure of up to $3,000 to remove the trees from the Waterbury Bridge project as presented to Cindy.
Thank you, Doug. And a second, please.
Chittenden County would second.
Thank you, Pat. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay, please. Thank you. And yes, Nathan, nice job getting all that stuff together, as well as you, Jeff. Quite the task. And we'll wait to see what the proposed scheduled date is. One point I saw June 1st. I don't know if that's still on the calendar or not.
Yeah, it will be either June 1st or right after June 1st. It takes them 2 weeks to schedule it out. And I
Okay.
told Nathan, we spoke a few days ago, and I said, we can't green light it yet. I mean, I'm thinking the board is probably gonna be okay with everything, but because it now has to have this board approval, I can't say 100%, but I'm 90% sure that it will be okay. And so he's now gonna go and get in touch with them and set a date.
Perfect. Thank you.
The other thing too, just as an update, so because I know this is gonna come up eventually, is once that tree's removed, what are we gonna do with that bridge, right? People are, the clubs are gonna wanna know. So I'm starting to do a little preliminary stuff, nothing that's costing any money, but I have emailed VHB. VHB is an engineering firm in the state of Vermont. It's the one that we used for the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail. It's the one that the Agency of Transportation uses for bridges and pathways and roads and things like that, and infrastructure. And because we've worked with them in the past, I sent an email and asked them how much would it cost to put together a proposal, not how much would it cost to fix the bridge. How much would it cost to review everything that we have and review the bridge itself? So I can come back to you guys and go, okay, for a professional review of that bridge, this is how much it's going to cost. I also have a folder about this thick of documents from the 1990s about that bridge. And at this point, Tina is putting that together and scanning. And because Jeff, I know you talked about starting a committee or something. I'm thinking that I know like Mike Burns has been very interested, Mark Reeves, Jeff Fay, is that we send all that historic documentation to whatever group is picked. But like I said, no money will be spent until we come back from, with an idea of what it would cost for a full engineering review.
I think that's a great idea, Cindy, and we were just looking at a working group. I think where you're heading with it, if we could just include the meetings or anything we do down there on site with the working group, open it up to everybody that wants to be involved. I know Roger had called and had some really good ideas with some engineering, even at UVM. So I think you're heading in the right direction with it. So I just think anybody's interested in being in the working group. We have a pretty good email list going right now through this work that's being proposed now. And so anybody else that wants to join it, I'm sure we can include as many people that wants to be involved.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Jeff. Let's see, new business, partnership award, Patty.
Yes, okay, so it's been it was on last month's agenda, but this is the official agenda. Cover it. And I just want to preface with, this is not from the awards committee. This is not from me as an officer in any capacity. This is me as a member submitting this. And the process is for me, for this to be presented to the board. So I just want to make sure I'm clear on that this is just me as a member on this submission. So everybody has a copy of this, my nomination. I sent that out in an email, and I know last month you all got it in the packet as well, but I'm just going to cover a couple of highlights within it, but I'm not going to read it, verbatim. So really it's to talk about social media influencers, which involves endorsements, knowledge, and social influence. It does increase brand awareness, and for us, it's fast and snowmobiling in Vermont. It provides feedback and valuable insights. In this particular case, lodging, food, trails, club events. It also builds awareness. There's a lot of conversations regarding off-trail riding, how important it is to be a volunteer, things like that. The influencer market, which wasn't around when I was a kid, but is pretty big now with the next generation, has emerged, and it is a force to be reckoned with. The most successful brands out there will be those that understand how to leverage the strength of the social media platforms as well as the written advertisement. So it's a combination of the two. So I'm hoping that we can be one of those brands in this approval. We do have a social media influencer, in my opinion, who religiously promotes the sport of snowmobiling in the Northeast with a focus on Vermont. And that would be the 203860 Riders of Connecticut, which is managed by Mario, who's the president and the founder. And that started back in 2019. Connecticut at that time did not have any kind of snowmobile structure And Mario really stepped up and seized the moment to provide that platform for out-of-state members. Approximately 50% of our membership comes from out of state, and this social media page really does speak to a good percentage of those riders. Mario, he doesn't just provide the platform for people to post. He responds to the posts, he creates new posts. He shares a lot of important content about club events, riding, great sites. Again, the lodging, the food, and the list really goes on. And I can't tell you how many times I've been in this company, and when people meet him, they go, "Oh, you're Mario," because they know him from the platform, even though they've never met him, because he is very, very vocal on there. Over the years, he started getting involved with merchandise on that site, and all the proceeds are donated back to snowmobile clubs. He doesn't keep any of that money, and he does all that work. He does still a lot of focus on Vermont. I mean, he does do the Northeast, but really a lot of it is on Vermont. And his family were landowners at one time in Dover. So over the past 5 years, 3 of the 4 clubs that they've sponsored are in Vermont. It was Chester, Brighton, and this year the Green Mountain Snow Dogs. They do put out an ask if anybody, needs help to reach out to them so they can work with them in the future to, do the proceeds to a club that they sponsor every year. So it's open to everybody. And again, 100% of the proceeds do go to that club that's selected. They also have sponsors, and there's a lot of things out there that, they do. We know if you've worked a trade show, Len, and the LGE products and a bunch of other things that are listed. I put them all in there, what other sponsors he has on that site. So according to the VAST policy, the Partnership Award recognizes an organization that consistently encourages and advocates for, in our case, for snowmobiling in Vermont. It does require your approval, does not say a unanimous vote like the lifetime, so it would default to Robert's rules would be the majority. In closing, I just want to put Mario's very visible personality for our out-of-state riders and has a deep passion for the sport. The initial intent wasn't there, but this group has consistently encouraged and been an advocate and a positive partner for snowmobiling in Vermont. How lucky are we to have someone to manage social media platform that supports VAST in such a positive manner. It's an unwritten partnership that has benefited our sport greatly. Described by one VAST club officer that I spoke with, he wears his passion on his sleeve and he backs up what he says with real action. He motivates people on the social media platforms to step up and support our club activities in many ways, such as rallying people, for work parties and other club-related events. Mario has a far-reaching presence and is respected by the masses on multiple social media platforms. People listen to influencers. I can't think of a better partnership than Mario and the 203860 group. He endorses our sport in a positive way. And just remember, the power of the influencer marketing isn't just a trend. It's a testament to the evolving landscape of relationships. So my ask tonight to the board of directors is I'm asking for your support for this award. So it would require a motion, and discussion, and a vote. And that's what I have. And you guys have a lot more in there. I just highlighted some of the areas just to cover it for those who may not have read it.
Thanks, Patty. Is there anyone that would like to make a motion on Patty's request?
Windsor County make a motion to approve the request from Patty Kapanik regarding the 860-203 riders of Connecticut.
Orleans will second.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion?
I'll just add that I agree with everything Patty said. This is very well deserving, and I think he's continued to do a lot of great things for VAST and our organization, and the promoting the sport and reaching out to the young crowds, like she mentioned. So young and old, there's all sorts of ages on there. So it's widespread, and thanks to Mario. I'm sure he's either watching this now or will watch it later. Very, very much deserved.
And he does it with a group of guys like you do, Roger, or he does it with the family, with his kids. So he's covering, different social classes, which, families or the guys, type of thing, which is nice. Thank you. Mike Burns has his hand up, Jeff.
Go ahead, Mike.
Have we ever done this to an outside Vermont organization or person?
I will tell you, Mike, I actually was in the company of Dick Jewett this weekend, who was on the awards committee with many more years than me. We have never actually done this award. It is in the policy and it's on the VAS website, but we have never, in my time or in Dick's time, before that, I don't know, have ever done this award.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. It just seems a little bit weird doing something outside Vermont, but yeah, I'm cool.
Well, we do, our dealers sometimes are outside of Vermont too.
Yeah, I know.
Hmm.
Anyone else?
I don't know, Matt's texting me about the possibility, some background information on this person, but I don't know, so.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Hearing no nays, motion passes. Thank you, Patty.
Thank you. We'll present this along with the other awards at the annual meeting. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Cindy, end of your projections.
Yeah, just finishing up. I did them before, but I'm gonna redo a few lines and then I'll send it to you guys with the little green and red sections, like Roger likes to see it that way, to show you where we came in, so I'll send it later on this week.
I appreciate you always mentioning that that's my favorite way every year. It
I know
makes
it
me
is.
feel special.
I do it just
So,
for you, Roger.
It's firefighter proof. I can see colors and it just makes it easier.
Well, and I always do it pink instead of red because it just pleases me better to see pink than red. Green and pink. Anyway, I'll get that out to you later on.
And Roger, you are special.
Oh, I know. Takes all kinds.
Oh, where are we now? Trails Committee recommendations. I guess this is Matt.
John Hull is not on tonight either, the co-chair, and neither is Kurt.
Yeah, we gotta see if we can try to fix that for futures.
Well, and I also just would suggest that it might be good for them to meet ahead of time, maybe, and that's, maybe you can chat with the chairs about, a few days ahead of the meeting to sit down and go over the agenda with Matt and stuff. Just because they're new chairs and it is such a vital committee and there's a lot of people on that committee, so it could be very unwieldy. And anyway.
Yes, it can.
Yeah, you used to be the chair of it.
I will say, I'll speak up a little bit, that it was a very good meeting. The meetings have been moving along really well lately, well constructed, and most of it, if Matt is we could probably get through. It was just trail recommendations that were brought to the forefront for us that we passed along to you with our recommendations. So it was all recommendations to the board of directors.
Yeah, I'd agree with Jeff. The meeting was really well run, well organized, and I thought productive.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, Kirk's doing a great job running it. Sorry, Jeff.
So do you want to go through these, Matt?
Sure, I guess I'm the only one that will. So, first one, it's all in my report. The first one was, let me find my report here. Sorry, find it. First one, the motion was to look into the manufacturer's required preventative maintenance on all grant funded machines for the life of the VAS grant. So I assume that would go into equipment grant aid policy.
Why do you need a board decision to look into something?
What I think they're trying to do is add, what we spoke of was add some, to keep the equipment in better shape so it lasts longer, was the meaning towards it, to add the verbiage and to add the manufacturer's recommended service. And if you go to Piston Bully or Tucker, or any one of them, they all have a very well spelled out maintenance plan per hours and usage. And so we would like to add that in if us as vast as co-signing any loans, or issuing a grant that we're trying to make this equipment last longer, so we're not buying so many new machines, is a little of the forethought on that.
Well, I suspected that was what the intent was, but that is not what the motion said.
I believe we wanted you guys to look at it, your thoughts on it, and then if need be, kick it back to us and we could come up with a draft of what it would look like as far as added to the what's the words I'm looking for? Added to the grants,
Yeah, policy.
grant policy.
Isn't the committee supposed to do that and then bring it to the board?
Yes. I would think you'd put a subcommittee together to draft that potential policy and then have the trail committee approve that and then send it to us.
If that's what you would like, we can send it back down and we can redraft it. And I think that was just to get your guys' input or your thoughts on the subject matter.
I think it's a great idea. I don't know. I mean, there's not a lot of clubs out there that probably run a maintenance program that's well documented, but it could be if it was required.
Jeff, Roger has his hand up.
Go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, I agree. I watched this meeting and it was very well run and very efficient. And I was a little confused by this as well. I on a personal level, I've always enjoyed the input from the Trails Committee, and I know that there's been a few people that have looked to see maybe it not used as much as it is. But I really enjoy the input of the guys that are giving their input on this, and it kind of creates like a two-tier, two-section committee for us that works to give us some input on how we should move. And I personally appreciate some sort of recommendation coming from them, and then we can discuss it moving forward. So there was a couple of discussions where this similar thing happened, where it was like, well, we'll just tell the board to look into it, and it's like, well, actually the Trails Committee has been tasked to look into it and then let us know what they find out. So I agree. I don't see why this can't be pursued by the Trails Committee, or God forbid we have another subcommittee.
I think a subcommittee of the Trails Committee might be the best way to let them figure it out, and then have the Trails Committee look at that information from their own subcommittee and see how that goes.
Right. Well, do we need a motion on this? We could make a motion to send it back down to the Trails Committee and come back more structured on it, or no, Cindy? Okay.
No, you don't need a motion. I just
No.
would add it back to the agenda. I like the idea of the subcommittee. We've had that before on the Trails Committee, and it was very effective, where that's what I was hoping. That's why I mentioned the two chairs and Matt getting together, because a smaller group of people can vet some of this stuff and then also do some follow-up work. And that will help everything run smooth. So I don't know if there's anything else on this list, but that would be, I think a subcommittee is a great idea, made up of the people on the Trails Committee. It's not like a resource committee that you're pulling in new people.
So we can add it to the August agenda.
Yeah.
And we might want to add this to our old business so we don't lose track of it.
Sounds like a good idea.
Was there anything else on this list that was sort of the same meaning behind having the board review it, that would actually go back to this subcommittee. Like I know it doesn't sound like West Windsor or Woodford, but the financial analysis recourse or the consumer price index.
There was one on the consumer price index. Matt, do you have it in front of you?
I do. The motion on that was. The motion was to split it and bring it to the board. Those are the exact words of the motion.
So our thoughts were, instead of enveloping last year's, because there was nothing issued last year. I believe and I'm using rough numbers now, but I think with this year's price index increase and last year's price index increase, we were at like 9.3 total, which we thought might be a little aggressive. So we were talking about splitting it somewhere in the 4 range, 4.1 or 4.2. And
4.65.
there you go. And meeting in the middle with that, and we wanted to bring that to the board for a recommendation.
Did the board not vote on that last year?
We did not have it in front of us last year.
No.
On the Trails Committee. I don't know about this board. I don't think we did either.
The Trails Committee made a motion, and the board, I don't think it was ever brought to the board for a vote that I could find in the minutes.
Part of the thought was to envelop some of it this year and then the remainder of it next year. Even if we run a year in the rears on it, we're still at least keeping up, and we're not making a major 10 or 15% change over 5 years or so.
So was a motion made at the Trails Committee this year for the 4.65, what Mandy just put in chat?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so then that could be a motion that's made now, because they made a motion to ask the board to do this, not to look into it, but to actually move on it.
The recommendation of the Trails Committee is to use a factor of 4.65% for consumer price index, which would increase the that increases the maximum grant amount, correct, Matt?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So Washington County will make a motion to accept the recommendation of the Trails Committee on the 4.65 increase to the consumer index. I guess that's pretty much it.
Orleans will second.
Okay. Any further discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Thank you. So now that just leaves the trail changes for West Windsor and Woodford.
No, you have the financial analysis one. That was a recommendation too. I think that falls under the same category though as the equipment grant. Any policy change. It would be a policy change that Trails Committee would bring to you guys. That's D. Jeff?
Recommend to the board to review the 23 clubs who didn't submit their financial analysis and the recourse for.
So if I can just provide some clarification for that, the way it sounded to me was, speaking of the financial analysis portion, not the trail changes, Matt made an emphasis on how important the data is for us in gathering this data. And it seems like this year we have because of the higher starting payments, we have an interesting scenario where the clubs have already received their money and will not be receiving any additional money. So there's nothing to withhold from them to get the data. So it's kind of like, we can't hold anything up over their head. And there was a discussion about possibly holding their starting payment to get that data. And it was kicked to the conversation, ended up kicking it to the board and saying that we need to review the 23 clubs who didn't submit their financial analysis. So myself as a board member, I'm kind of looking for, a recommendation from either the Trails Committee or a subcommittee of the Trails Committee to figure out what we should do. I agree with Matt. The data is very important. So I'm not sure how we should proceed with this.
So this is the data for, you're talking about the deadlines. They've missed their deadlines, which sets us back as far as all the reporting we do for the state and all the grants and all that kind of stuff, which is the same issue we had last year.
Correct. And we kind of created this problem on our own because by, changing the structure, which we did, and I think it was a good move to give the clubs more control and early money. We've given them a majority of their money at the beginning of the season in December, and we have no recourse when they don't follow the rules in hindsight halfway or towards the finish of the season. And they missed that April deadline, and now we're wondering how to handle it. I think, again, we were making the recommendation to possibly work on some kind of percentage of withholding percentages or something on next year's payment, which would happen again in December. And so I think at this one could be sent back down also, but I believe they were looking for some of the board's thoughts on where and how and percentages and what we could do with it.
Any feedback to send back to the Trails Committee?
The motion really doesn't give a recommendation for us to approve. So.
Right. We're basically going to do the same thing we did with the other one, is we're going to send it back to the Trails Committee to have them suggest some ideas to the board.
Right.
Doug, go ahead.
Well, the question that I had, the only two things I was aware of options were, one was withhold the whole grooming startup payment, and the other one was to withhold 50% of the grooming startup payment for those clubs. Are those the two suggestions that other people are aware of, or is there something else that I don't know about? Or those are the two options that I heard about.
Yeah, I was just going to clarify a little bit from that meeting. The idea is that because so few clubs were getting any additional grooming payments this year because of the low snow, the penalty of not getting your final payment didn't apply this year. So VAS didn't really have any recourse. So the discussion, and I think where it ended up, was that the thought is that we make a policy change that in the event that in a year like this year, where there is no final payment due, the penalty would be the startup payment for the following season would be limited. And there was some discussion about giving them zero. And we were saying that, many clubs need that startup payment to buy fuel and whatnot. So instead of making it zero, making it 50% of their scheduled startup payment, so that there is still some recourse and a little bit of a stick for not completing that reporting. So that was really what
if they
came
wanted
out
to
of
grieve it too, Stan, right?
Yeah, the grieve.
If they
Yeah,
didn't-
you still have the opportunity to grieve it. In the event that there is circumstances that are truly legitimate. The treasurer has been in the hospital for a month, so they weren't able to compile the data. That kind of stuff is, that's a legitimate reason probably. So the grievance process is still there.
And that's all great, but they need to bring that to us.
Sure, I understand.
With it. So I think,
but that was just the ideas. I think that were the two basic ideas were to withhold either all or a portion of the startup payment. I think the committee was kind of looking to float the balloon at the board meeting and get a sense for what the board was comfortable with. But I think it's fair enough to just send it back and say, we need the subcommittee to come up with a firm structure for a proposal and send it back.
It's good to get some input though, too. I mean, the reason why we started doing this and floating it up here and we can bring it back down to the next level again is to really get some input. What do you guys feel? I mean, this is the board of directors. Are there people on here that feel like, no, we don't change anything, or do we hold it 100%, or do we hold 50%? What is ridiculous? What is okay? And
that's decisions that the Trails Committee ought to be making before they bring it to us. Mike Burns.
Yeah, I guess I was questioning that. I mean, I don't know, maybe I don't understand the total scope of the Trails Committee, but I mean, this is a financial decision on a policy that we put in. I mean, is that really in their scope, or should that be in the board of directors to look at this?
We'll be the ones to approve it, but we need their recommendation based on their input from all of their clubs.
And they can make like 3 recommendations. They can have like, okay, here's the 3 choices you guys have and why. This is how this choice would affect these clubs, or, you know, I think that's what they're asking. I think that's what the board is asking for,
Yeah,
is
it
at
just
least
feels-
to flesh it out some.
Yeah, it just feels like we kind of made a major policy change and overlooked something. Now we're kind of dumping on somebody else to pick. Yeah.
No, I think it's definitely in the purview of the Trails Committee, because it's directly related to trails. And in the past, when the board has taken it upon themselves to make some changes trails related, there's been feedback coming back the other way that the Trails Committee didn't have any input. So we're giving the Trails Committee the option to have input on this. And yes, it has financial implications, but that's where the board comes in to sift through the Trails Committee recommendations. So, Mike Stewart.
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm glad we're talking about this subject. I was alarmed, quite frankly, when I looked at the 2024 grooming summary and saw how many clubs actually didn't even go out and groom, or groomed a very, very minimal amount, and how much money that we spent. I think we're on the right track with how to withhold from the next startup payment, but I think this is something we should probably talk about at our leadership meeting in July, because this is going to be a problem running down the road. I think everybody knows it, and I'm glad we're addressing this subject right now.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so we will kick that one back to the Trails Committee as well.
Hey, Jeff.
Yep, go ahead, Roger.
One final thought on this. I would really like to, we as a club last year, we were hit pretty hard for our financial analysis being late. And of course, we had money that was being that could have been withheld for a final grooming payment to get that done. And we fully acknowledge and appreciate the importance of data and making data-driven changes to the association. So, I mean, I'm not making a motion or anything like that, but I would truly like to see something happen where those funds get withheld until the financial analysis is completed. And that paperwork, that information doesn't just disappear between April and December. So if we get to December and all of a sudden now the club is wondering why they don't have their startup payment, and I think it would be important for Matt or somebody from VAST to warn them via letter or email that this is happening. Then they can send us what they have for information. But if we're going to make changes based on real-time data, we need everything that we can get. And just as it's important to get the information from the clubs that groom a lot and have a lot of members, that the data from the smaller clubs that may not groom a lot is just as important. So we need everything that we can get. So I'm hoping that we can come up with some sort of resolution here to figure out how we can get this information from those clubs now or later.
Yeah, I would actually suggest a prorated withholding of future funds.
Yeah, I think
the quicker you get it back, the more you're going to get in the fall.
Right. Unfortunately, though, like if the Trails Committee doesn't meet till August, this is going to be pushed back to the fall, and this data is really important for our July spa day that we have. So I don't know. I don't know if it can be rectified between now and then. I truly don't even really know how much data is missing, but something needs to be done sooner than later, if possible.
And we could turn the form back on online and let the clubs that have forgotten about it get back in and do it.
There was 20-something clubs that didn't do it, and then I think there was only 8 clubs getting checks for the end of the season checks. So it's astounding to me on how many clubs didn't do it. But a lot of them are sitting there now saying, well, why do we do it now? We're already late. So I think we need to have that feedback to them that we're still looking for that information, and let's get it filled out and we'll deal with the repercussions later, maybe.
Well, they can't do it right now because it's not active on the webpage.
Can we, I don't know if a motion is needed or not, but can we put some pressure on them via just have Vast send out an email to them and say, you know, I mean, maybe a policy change needs to happen before this can happen, but can we put some pressure on them to get back in there and reactivate the link so that possibly we can grab another 50% of these clubs?
Well, the link is not active on the VAST website. It's VAST that has to turn it on.
Right, I get that, but I'm saying, you can turn it on all day long, but if they don't get an official notice from VAST saying there's a possibility you may lose startup funds, they're not going to fill it out.
Oh, I agree. And I think as directors, we could get the hammer out and go beat on them between now and to get that information in there. I know I would. I've got 2 clubs that didn't do it, and I have no problem giving them a call.
Yeah, and we can certainly do that. It's just it's as frustrating for you guys as it is for us, right? Because of the deadlines being missed and it delaying things, and but we can certainly send an email, reactivate a link, and say, okay, you guys have 3 days, get it done, because otherwise these are the repercussions. It's in policy already that if you're not following deadlines and everything, your club is not compliant, and you don't want to go down that road of being a club that's not compliant.
Cindy, should we make a motion to just exactly what you just said, reactivate the link and send out notification?
So I have a question. How much are we supposed to take time and chase clubs for stuff? They were all sent an email reminder. It's in the grooming contract. How many times are we responsible to remind people? Because there's enough work to do.
I think the problem, Matt, is not how many times are we responsible to remind them. It's that we found out that the system doesn't work because we gave them a lot of these clubs money that they in turn didn't, it was all of their money. So the system that we had set up wasn't working. So we all have to kind of come to the middle now and reevaluate the process. And I think that's what we're talking about. It's not necessarily going every time there's a problem, we're going to give them extra time. It's just that through the Trails Committee process that you guys had, you found out like, whoa, well, no wonder some of these clubs aren't even responding. There's no stick. It's all carrot. And that's what Stan was saying. So
as you mentioned, if they've missed deadlines, they are no longer compliant and therefore no longer in good standing with VAST. Right. I think that would be the email to send and give them the options of what they need to do to become back in good standing. I mean, that is in our policy, is that if you're missing deadlines, you're no longer in compliance with the policy, and therefore you're no longer in good standing with VAST.
And maybe that needs to go out with the initial notification saying it's due this day. If you don't get it here this day, you'll be out of compliance, and this is what could happen.
You guys can certainly do that. You would be following the current policy by doing that.
The policy is there, and we've had the non-compliance in there for at least 3 years now. So we're talking about carrots and sticks. I guess it's time to put the carrots down and pick the sticks up.
Well,
I agree with Matt. I mean, it's not Matt's job to track these people down and chase them down. I think that we need, the onus is on us as directors to make the grassroots effort to reach out to the clubs in our county. And, I mean, we'll be the bad guy. The board will be the bad guy. It doesn't need to be Matt, but, and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but if they fill out this financial analysis, it pre-populates a spreadsheet and stuff for you. So is there a lot of back end work that you have to do once you receive that information that's going to tie up valuable time from you, or?
Yeah. So I mean, typically if in a normal year where we had most of these in, I would pull the data and run spreadsheets and do it all. And yeah, when I get them late, it's useless because I have to go back in, re-export stuff and monkey around. And I don't really have time to do it. So it's almost like a moot point at that point. It's late. So I'm not looking at it. This year I haven't done anything with it, so it really wouldn't matter this year. But and this year the data is going to be a little wonky, of course, because there's high expense for most clubs and no mileage to spread it out over. So it's going to be really odd for sure. So this year it wouldn't matter as much because I haven't done anything with that data, sort of knowing that we had 23 clubs that haven't sent it in. So I just sat on it. But in a normal year, yeah, it would be, it holds everything up and makes it tough to, like I said, do reports and send, good detailed information out to, like for even like the annual meeting booklet. I mean, that's coming pretty soon. I'll start putting stuff together for that. So it would alter the data there, things like that.
Well, plus all of the end of the year report stuff you have to have for July 1st.
Right.
That takes you weeks and weeks to produce that huge report you do every year. So that's what really the pushback. That's why you guys made all these policies, was to, anyway.
And ideally, if we had, if we had good data, the Trails Committee would look at that and say, oh, it's costing all these clubs, $28 a mile to groom, and we're paying $13.50. We need a rate increase, and that's what drives all of that too. So if we have no data or poor data, we start to fall behind, and we would be making those recommendations sort of right now to the board, and then for the budget to start looking at where do we find additional funds to pay more if we had to, or so there's a lot of moving pieces at stake here without the data.
Mike Burns.
Couple hands up.
Yeah, I was just listening to it stuff, and I think it's something we probably need to rethink the whole thing and make it smaller increments. I mean, we can't send 23 letters of non-compliance out. I mean, that'd seem vast. If even half of them didn't come in and we had to live up to our word and not pay them next year, we can't do that. So we're gonna have to, I think we need to rethink the whole payout thing and do it where, we catch this sooner, where it's not such catastrophic. It doesn't affect as many clubs and not such a big chunk. I mean, be realistic. We can't do that and still survive. So I think we kind of dug ourselves in a little bit of a hole here.
Mike Stewart.
I think
Mike, you're on mute if you still have your hand up. Maybe he just didn't take his hand down from before.
No,
Oh, there you go.
no. Okay, thanks. I agree with Mike. We got to take a look at this and fine tune this a little bit. Out of the 23 clubs, I just did a quick count, and there's only 7 out of the 23 that actually groomed. The rest of them didn't even groom. Or if they groomed, they might have groomed a mile or 2 or under 10 miles. So I don't know if these guys think that, hey, we didn't groom, we don't have to do a financial analysis. I'm not 100% sure, but I think we need to look at the whole deal again. I agree with Mike.
Mike, I can tell you that one of the clubs I spoke with today, they stopped thinking about grooming back in mid-February and just completely forgot the financial sheet at the end of the season.
If they didn't groom, it should be easy to fill out then.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's that simple.
It is very easy if you remember to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to take smaller increments, we give them till the end of May to send something in. And I don't know if we ever have 100% compliance with our financial analysis. Matt would know that. So it's probably not possible to capture all of them, but if we capture another 12 or 13, something's better than nothing. And
just to throw something else out there again, should we pay a club that didn't groom this year? Should we pay them a startup grooming fee next year? Or should they tell them they use the same money? Kind of double dipping there and paying them twice for what they didn't do, or well, maybe do one time. It's just
that discussion has to happen at some point. I don't know if tonight's the right time for it, but that definitely has to happen.
That would take a policy change.
I understand.
I'm
rely
I
on.
have a,
They got a lot of payments on those machines, so that money may have already been paying out. They need that money to make those payments. So this is what we've tackled, 2 years ago when we made these changes. We did tackle this. And obviously we need to reassess it and look at it, but.
And
the
if they're
clubs-
if they're using that money to make payments, then that information needs to be filled out on financial analysis and turned into Matt.
Agreed.
Simple as that.
Yes.
So that's a two-way street. They want the money to make the payments, then they need to do the financial analysis to let us know that they're making those payments.
I agree with the not in compliance. I think that even if we talk about the fall and holding back money, we've already got the statute there with the non-compliance. I think if you send out non-compliance letter, I know it's aggressive, but they're going to, you set a statute that we're going to go that route and we're going to hold, give them time to get the stuff into us, even if we can't use all that information really effectively this year, the non-compliance, enforce it. And I think you'll see less of it coming up because hopefully they learn a lesson.
And it's not like the clubs in Chittenden County have not done the financial analysis for as many years as we've had it. So, yeah, they may have forgotten, but especially with the go around we had last year with the same situation. It was pretty well known that there was issues with not turning your analysis in last year. But I guess it's up to the board to decide course of action on this.
Well, I guess I'll just take a stab at this here. I would like to make a motion that VAS sends out a letter to these clubs via email or snail mail, whatever I guess is the best way to reach them. And I don't know, give them till the end of the month and just let them know that the VAS board is considering withholding startup payments next season if they do not receive their money. And then whatever we have after that, we can, just because we're kind of in a time crunch, I'd like to see us do that. So I don't know if that's clear as mud or if that gives you something to start with, Cindy. I don't know.
yeah, it does. We can certainly do that, and we can send it out in an email. We can send it to each club. We can CC directors, so you guys are aware of who's getting this and when it was sent and seeing the timestamp.
Would that be the non-compliance letter that we generally would send out anyways? I mean, and then obviously a little bit.
I don't know. I kind of agree with Stewart and Burns. I'm not exactly sure if that's something we need to do right now, but we just need to have a letter to be like, hey guys, listen, we need the data. We're considering making some changes to affect your payment next year. Get it to us by June 1. And then, I mean, it's not a long period of time, but it's just long enough to give them some time to get some stuff together. It gives us time to reach out to them. And then it's also short enough to where if we need to do some follow-up, if we need to take follow-up action, it still gives us time to hopefully grasp some more of this before July. It gives us the month of June.
Because in that non-compliance letter, we had 5 tiers of different things that we could do. None of them were a guarantee. So it's kind of saying the same thing, but it's already written in our. We don't have to rewrite anything to make that happen. It's in there what we can do and the repercussions on what VAS can do to hold back, whether it be money or certain payments or it's really all in.
That's fine. I do. I'm not super well versed in it. I don't have it in front of me, but then let's just use that. Let's use the term non-compliance. I think it'll be a little bit. I guess I agree with you. If it's a template and a procedure that we have in place, let's go with it and see what happens. So I guess to clear it up, my motion is that VAS sends out to the clubs that have not submitted their financial analysis a letter of non-compliance if they do not receive their financial analysis by June 1.
Washington County will second that.
Okay. I think we've had the discussion to beat that horse. All those in favor of that motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Thank you. Motion passes. You have enough on that, Cindy, to,
Yeah, I'll talk to Matt about it tomorrow.
okay.
But I wrote down
Um,
pretty much the motion, and Tina and Mandy would have done it too, so.
So that brings us to the 2 trail requests from the recommendations from the Trails Committee. We have West Windsor Moonlighters and Woodford.
The West Windsor Moonlighters wanted to add 15.3 miles to the club's 2 miles Class 2 grooming. We made a recommendation on the Trails Committee to send that. We accepted it, and we were sending it off to the Board of Directors.
I will make a motion that we accept the Trails Committee's recommendation for the West Windsor Moonlighters Trail Edition.
Lemoyle will
second that.
Thank you, Dustin. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that recommendation, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, say nay. Thank you. West Windsor is approved. Woodford is the next one.
So the Woodford Snowbusters, a new trail system of 30.8 miles, Class 4 grooming contract. We made a recommendation. The Trails Committee made a recommendation to the Board of Directors to accept that.
Windsor County make a motion to accept the proposal from the Trails Committee regarding the Woodford Snowbusters Class 4 grooming contract for 30.8 miles. As presented.
Orleans will second it. I do have a question.
Okay, discussion?
Can we just get clarification? It just says, based on my calculations, their startup payment would be $2,044.35 and $5,841. I'm just confused as to why there's 2 amounts there. I'm not against it. I'm just confused.
5,841 should be the cap figure.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you.
I miswrote in there.
No problem.
I misread it, so I thought it was the cap.
Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor of the Woodford recommendation, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, say
Aye.
nay. Thank you. Woodford is approved. Let's see. You took care of that, Trails Administrative Report, ED report. Any questions or comments on either of those reports? Anything that you would like to add, Cindy or Matt? I
Nope.
think we covered most of Matt's in the last half an hour, so.
I'm good.
Jeff, did we settle on a subcommittee looking into the groomer maintenance? Is that what we officially settled on? I know we had a little discussion about it.
That was going to be a subcommittee of the Trails Committee. That one went back to, that one we're sending back to the Trails Committee.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
With our recommendation that they form a subcommittee to look into it.
Yeah, 10-4.
All right.
I just have a question for Matt regarding just regarding the GPS. I put a comment in his trail administrator's report about the GPS systems, just saying he was working on it and hoping to have a solution for the winter. I was just wondering, Matt, you're pretty confident that you can come up with something, or are you still not really that sure before the winter?
We'll figure out something. I'm not sure what it'll be, but we'll get somewhere with it.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, it's not Matt holding up the process, just so everybody knows. It's the two companies. But yeah, it's not from lack of trying to get them to communicate and work together and get us something that'll work.
Great, thanks.
Thanks for asking.
Excuse me. Committee reports. American Outdoors Risk Retention Group. Mark.
We got our audit back passed. I guess that's how you phrase it. We paid our taxes, and we're renewed for the year.
Cool.
That's it.
Thank you. Northeast
wait a minute,
Chapter
we're
USA.
looking for a new board member. Pat resigned. Said he couldn't work with me anymore, so had to let him go. Just kidding. But we are looking for someone to come onto the board to take Pat's place.
Those are big shoes.
Yeah.
Tens.
Okay. We'll keep that in mind. Northeast Chapter USA, Pat, anything?
Nothing from USA. I don't know about chapter.
Chapter will be meeting in June in the great state of Wisconsin at International Snowmobile Congress.
USA also will be meeting there.
Well, there we go.
As
Sounds like a
will
good time.
IASA.
Let's see. Snow Trails Conservancy, anything, Cindy?
Nope, nothing new. I haven't met.
Law enforcement.
Nope, nothing new. Working on the reports.
Here's one. Awards and nominating. Patty.
I always have something. Yes, I know. Scholarships, we did receive a thank you card from scholarship recipient Lydia Gillespie. I'm saying that correctly. So that came in. So that was very nice. We did receive 37 individual award nominations, and some of those 37 have multiple nominations against, for some of those folks that were submitted. Committee members have their packages and they're reviewing them independently first, and then we meet as a committee in a couple of weeks to discuss and finalize the award selections. Not as many as last year, but when I think back to when I first started, we used to have maybe 12, no more than 20 that we'd have to go through. So it's still not, it's still a nice representation there. And that's all I have on those two items.
Thank you, Patty.
Yeah.
Bylaws and policy, Mark.
Cindy and I talked about if there's anything that we need to look at in the bylaws, get ready for the annual meeting, and we can't think of anything. However, if there's someone on the board, anyone who says, hey, address this, please bring it to our attention. We'll call a meeting of the committee and we will draft that whatever for presentation, but time is of the essence on that.
Okay. Thank you. Annual meeting, Michael, anything new?
That's Ivor. No,
It's Ivor.
everything's good. It's all on track. Nothing new.
Do we have a location?
Grafton Ponds Outdoor Center in Grafton.
Are they going to have tables available for clubs if they want to sell tickets or things like in the past here as well? Yes. Okay. So we can let our clubs and our counties know to reach out to you if they want to do that.
Yeah, and we'll make sure there's enough tables.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Was an executive committee, financial, anything, Patty? I think you pretty well covered it.
I said sugar. Just that we are meeting this week actually to work on start our work on the 2025 proposed budget. So that's it.
Long range planning, Mark.
Finalizing the agenda for the July 13th meeting, and that's it. It's a one-day affair. We hope to keep it tight and not keep people there till midnight. We're shooting for 11:30, but that's about it.
Great, thank you. Resource Committee, Trails, I think we covered that. Safety, Stan.
Yeah, we did not meet this month. We're going to take a couple months off for the summer, but we are going to reconvene, I think, in July. And our focus is going to be on reviewing the Vermont portion of the online safety course and see if we can make some improvements.
Okay, thank you. Governor's Council, Pat.
The council met. We were a little late last month. Law enforcement was not represented, but it was a topic of discussion that council will be working with the safety committee, although most of those members are members of both, so it won't be an issue. And the biggest thing, we had a report from the Southern Vermont Search and Rescue team down there in Bennington that did take a snowmobile law enforcement training class with New York State, and game wardens from Vermont were present, and they're going to bring that information back to our law enforcement people. So,
nice. Thank you. All right, that gets us to the end of the agenda. Is there anything else that needs to be discussed or talked about?
Yes, please. Sorry, Jeff, it's Julianne. Personnel Committee, you will be seeing the evaluations for the ED coming out, so we can get that done in the month of June. When I get it out to all you folks, it'll have a required response time. And please, please, please respond. It would be greatly appreciated. And I'll get that out so we can have that done and resolved. And if anybody feels the need, we can have an executive session to discuss at the summit.
Jeff, did you drop her off this committee list?
We took it off because it's personnel.
Oh.
And it really only should be discussed in executive session. And in the past, it has opened discussion in a live meeting. So she just brings it up when she, needs to let you guys know stuff.
And remember, if you miss the deadline, you're not in compliance and you'll get your wrist slapped.
No candy for you at the retreat.
We'll all get fired, right?
You're gonna withhold my pay?
You're gonna get sugar-free lollipops and sugar-free popsicles at the retreat instead of candy.
We'll make you wear a funny hat during the retreat. So, anything else anyone has before we disperse? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Roger.
Thank you, Roger.
Zucani, second it.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, everyone.
Safe Memorial Day.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for all you do.